So that was one of my Paralympic runs from over in Sochi. So hello. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm super pumped on the turnout to support a foundation that provides funding and awareness to osteosarcoma research. Having a lot of interaction with the cancer and disability world, it's a breath of fresh air that Eric and his team are devoted to focusing on the positive lives that people that survive cancer can live. As Eric and Lucy mentioned, with a lot of support from my friends, family, and community, I beat cancer and went on to compete at the 2014 Paralympics in Sochi, Russia. Thank you. So some of you might be wondering how that happened, and today I'd like to share with you my story. In 2003, I was playing hockey on Armpire's rec hockey team, the Armpire Packers. I really enjoyed competitive hockey and wanted to make the team the next year. I started training for the next season at the Canadian Tire Center on fake ice. Shortly after beginning this training, I developed a bump on my left leg that was pretty painful and started to affect my training. My trainer suggested that I should go to my doctor and ask about the lump. After some x-rays were taken, my doctor diagnosed me with bone cancer, and I was scheduled for a biopsy at CHIO. Shortly after the biopsy, it was confirmed that I had osteogenic sarcoma, the same type of cancer as Val. I was admitted into CHIO and started my chemotherapy treatments. That summer was spent mostly at the hospital, receiving cancer treatments and discussing possible surgery options. My parents were really good with gathering a bunch of information about the different surgery options and presenting them in a way that made sense to a 10-year-old kid. They wanted me to make the decision since I was going to be the one that had to live with the consequences. The first and easiest option was an above-the-knee amputation. This would limit me to sitting sports and making adapting to day-to-day life much more difficult. The section option was a fake metal bone. I was told I would look normal, but I wouldn't be able to play sports, and I would need surgery to lengthen my leg anytime I grew. Obviously, I wasn't too pumped on that idea. The third option, and the option that I went with, is called a Van Ness rotation. This is where they remove your knee, take your foot, put it 180 degrees, and reattach it on backwards. I don't know if anyone was watching the medical thing going on over there, but they had some pretty cool pictures of Van Ness rotations. I was able to meet someone with each of the surgery options, and the impression I got from Tim, who had a Van Ness rotation, was that a Van Ness would allow me to be the most active. Sport had already impacted my life so much, and I knew that I wanted to continue with competitive sport. My surgery was on October 7th, 2003, 12 hours and a success. It was a major turning point in my treatment because now I could focus on learning how to walk and adapt to living with a disability. I slowly learned how to walk again and finished my treatment on April 12th, 2004. Only one more minor surgery to take out my growth plates, and I was done. It worked out to be exactly a year after I was diagnosed. After my treatment, my friends and community helped me to get back into the regular routine of being a 12-year-old kid. My strength was coming back faster, and I was happy. As I got stronger, I learned to live with one leg. I desperately wanted to get back into hockey. Like all sports, you just can't jump back into it and be good. It takes time, effort, and progression. My 2004-2005 season was spent public skating and shooting pucks in my backyard. My friends and family were very supportive of getting me back on the ice again. By the next season, I had trained enough and progressed enough that I felt confident to not only play on a team again, but actually be a good player. I played 10 league hockey for the next few years leading up to high school, where I had to make a hard decision. I knew I was never going to make a career out of hockey and play at any higher of a letter. The kids were just getting way too good. I decided it was more important to start working a job at a local home hardware and bring home some bacon. Grade 9, I focused on working my job and getting good grades in school. I found myself bored throughout the winter, and that's when I decided to get back into snowboarding. I had ski races as a kid and learned how to snowboard, but I hadn't tried it in a while. What was great about snowboarding was I could put work and school first, and whatever time I had left over, I could go out to the hill. Grade 10 is when I joined my high school snowboard team and started something that I had no idea where it was going to take me. I raced on my high school team for the 4 years, and in my final year, being my victory lap, we were able to hire a new coach because our team had always done so well at regional and provincial races. When she found out about my artificial leg, she put me in contact with the national snowboard team, and I was invited out to a board cross race. I dropped out of school despite my really good grades and decided to pursue the dream of being a snowboard bum. I went to Lake Louise in that April of 2011 and competed in my first ever World Cup, placing 5th in the world and 1st in Canada. This got me an invite out to Whistler that June to try out for the national snowboard team. Thankfully, I was in good shape and able to keep up on snow. My coach knew that I had a lot of work before becoming an elite athlete, but wanted to give me the chance to grow and progress as far as I wanted to in the sport. The only thing that was going to limit me was myself. I raced for the next 2 seasons on the team. I learned how to eat, train, live, and breathe being an athlete. Last summer, the news came out that snowboarding was going to be making its debut at the 2014 Paralympics, and that Canada was going to be sending a team. After receiving this news, something within me clicked. I wanted to bring home a gold medal for Canada. I put college on hold and moved to Whistler to be a full-time athlete. With help from my family, community, coach, sponsors, employers, friends, and the Canada Snowboard staff, I started training full-time. I spent last September in the gym doing off-snow training to get my body prepared specifically to start snowboarding. I was mountain biking, trampolining, and spent many hours stretching and rolling out my muscles. By November, I was not only physically ready to snowboard, but mentally stoked to get back on the snow. I met the team in Banff for some early season riding. We trained 7 days a week. Weekdays were spent at Lake Louise getting in miles, practicing drills, and getting used to being back on my snowboard again. Weekends were spent at Norquay, doing gate training and edge control. I also spent November getting my equipment in check. By the end of the month, I wanted to know exactly what I was going to be racing on at Sochi. I got my boards, boots, bindings dialed in. November was an excellent prep month and got me ready to start training on a board cross course. December, I traveled to Big White, where thanks to the awesome staff and supportive owner, we already had a small course set up for us to train on. It felt so awesome to take the skills that I'd learned the month before and actually put them onto a course. I was feeling very confident and comfortable with my riding. My Christmas break, which I spent in Whistler, training and visiting with friends, it was time to take my skills and put them onto a big board cross course. Not to mention, start racing for World Cup points to qualify for the games. Being on a full-length bordercross course felt awesome, and I was confident with my skills because of how hard I'd been training off and on snow. We trained in Big White for a couple weeks leading to our first competition in Copper Mountain, Colorado. After racing 2 World Cups that weekend in Copper, I not only got my first podium, but my second. I walked away that weekend with 2 bronze medals. The next 2 World Cups were on home turf. Coming up to Big White for the 2 Canadian World Cups was really exciting, but I was pretty nervous. On the first day of racing, I came 5th, and after the second day, I got another 3rd. The day I came 3rd was also the day they named the first ever Canadian snowboard team to be going to the Paralympics. As you could imagine, I was beyond stoked and definitely celebrated my accomplishments. We then traveled to Spain to compete 2 more World Cups where I placed 5th and 7th. The next time I would be racing would be in Russia at the Paralympic Games. I was pumped. Going to the Games was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, and I could tell stories and talk about it for days. In short, as an athlete, it was probably one of the coolest things I will ever experience. From the people to all the athletes from around the world, it was an incredible event to be a part of. Considering the day and the environment I was racing in, plus 15 weather, slushy and everything, I was very happy with the way things turned out. Coming 7th in the world and 1st in Canada at my first games allowed me to meet all my goals for that season. Sport has always been a huge part of my life. Snowboarding has been that thing that I can lose myself in and be fully concentrated on. I fell in love with snowboarding because of the freedom it brought me, being outside in nature, and it was something that I could do with my friends. I now race and compete internationally, but still love snowboarding for the same reasons. I think it is important for us to remember why we fall in love with anything we do and to pursue it. I am living proof that life after cancer can get better. I have a smile on my face every day because I love what I do and I love the people in my life. It's foundations like the one that we're all out here tonight supporting that help people fighting cancer and give them the chance to beat it and go on to accomplish whatever they want. Thank you.
John Leslie, what an inspiration, a name that no one in this room will forget. John, you inspired us in so many ways, not only hearing about your story as an elite athlete, you know, the sacrifice and dedication that that takes, but also an elite athlete that has overcome adversity, but you also inspire us because of your attitude and that smile that you have on your face that comes through so clearly in how you talk about your experiences. So what an absolute pleasure to hear from you tonight. John Leslie, everybody.